It's an age-old question that we get here on UK theme parks. Why theme parks? Why not fairs? Do you like theme parks more? Do you like fairs more? So in this video, we're actually going to have a look at theme parks, fairs, and believe it or not, amusement parks. We are going to go through the difference. We're going to go through the first theme park, or what was regarded to be the first theme park, some examples, then we're going to have a look at the rides and explain a little bit about the rides. We're going to take in the atmosphere, the value for money, what they excel at, and what they could all do better. First, let's look at the difference between them on how you can categorize the difference between the three examples we're using. We have theme parks, we have amusement parks, and we have fun fairs, fairgrounds. I would argue that most people feel we don't have amusement parks in the UK. It's a very American term. It's a very Americanism way of describing the parks out there. However, we have probably more amusement parks than we do anything else. When you look at it, a theme park's job is to immerse you. It's to immerse you in themed lands with themed rides and completely themed adventure. From the minute you enter to the second you leave, it feels like you've escaped from the kind of the modern day world. Fun fairs are quite simple. These are travelling rides that appear down your local park, that appear in big gatherings sometimes, and the rides go up and you just have a whale of a time for a couple of hours on some real thrilling machines. And then you have kind of the middle ground, which is your amusement parks. Your amusement parks may have large coasters, they may have a good selection of flat rides, but they won't be themed. They won't have themed areas. They won't particularly have that many themed rides. And if they do, it'll only be sort of a couple out of maybe 10% out of the whole range. That may include a ghost train, that may include a fun house or something like that. And there is examples of these as we go through. Now, some of these are really easy to distinguish, and you may think, I know what a theme park is, I know what a fun fair is, and maybe I know what an amusement park is, but let's break it down. It is widely regarded that in the UK, the very first theme park was Chessington World of Adventures. The theme park, which used to be a zoo, was designed with themes in mind. It was designed with lands in mind. It was designed with new attractions and new experiences never seen before in the UK. Now, we did obviously have parks open in the UK, which included places like Thorpe Park and Alton Towers. But Alton Towers didn't really have themes. You might say it had, Talbot Street and things like that when you walked in, but it didn't really have themes until the early 90s when they started to really separate the park. And this goes the same as well with some of the other parks across the UK. So good examples of theme parks these days are Chessington World of Adventures, set out in 9 or 10 lands. Also with the likes now of Alton Towers, Thorpe Park, Flamingo Land, Drayton Manor, Portons Park. We have some really good theme parks in the UK where you can go and have a really immersive experience. From that, we move on to fun fairs. Fun fairs are very easy distinguishable. These are non-permanent attractions. So these are travelling rides that, as I said, appear sort of down your local park, car parks, places like that for a few days at a time. That's it. That's all they do. You might come across the same rides. They might go to a couple of places in your town, in your city, but they are travelling rides with no permanent home. And then we kind of have the middle ground, which is amusement parks. Now, amusement parks are parks full of rides, and they are full of rides that don't necessarily have a theme, but are there permanently. So good examples of this tend to be your seaside resorts. That includes local to me, places like Clarence Pier, Funland, but also places like Adventure Island, Great Yarmouth Pleasure Beach, and even Blackpool Pleasure Beach. These are parks which don't have a definitive theme as you walk around them, but may have a couple of themed attractions. A lot of the American parks are classed as amusement parks because when you go to places like Six Flags as well, these massive roller coasters are just sitting over parking lots, little bits of grass, and it's very much the same in the UK. Now then, there are a few grey areas with this. There are a few parks that want to be theme parks that are getting there but may not quite be there yet. They include places like Lightwater Valley, which have a couple of themed areas, and that includes places like Pleasurewood Hills also. But as a general rule, these kind of fit between the three. Blackpool can't be distinguished as a theme park because it doesn't have a distinctive theme areas as you go around. Of course, it's the rides that define these places. And it can get a little frustrating when I speak to people that are like, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. All these places are what you make of it, and they all cater for various different people, much like all walks of life do. Now, the rides are what makes it. So when we look at theme parks, you can guarantee when you go to a theme park, you are going to have roller coasters, 100%. You might have big roller coasters, you might have family roller coasters, children's roller coasters, you might have all of them all in one place. But the roller coaster is what makes a theme park. As John Wardley once said, people don't go to theme parks to ride the flat rides, they go there for the immersive themed experience. Roller coasters being top of that list. You are going to get dark rides there, you are going to get water rides there, you are going to get a different caliber of rides to what you get at other places. Fun fairs are typically thrill rides, massive thrill rides, juvenile rides as a backup. And the rides, of course, are really, really unique. These are rides that, you may not see in a theme park. These are rides that, might only have one or two in the UK that kind of travel around. And these are rides that can be really, really extreme. Not the kind of rides that you're likely to see down your local Chessington World of Adventures for various reasons. They're not for, they're not for the faint-hearted. A lot of them aren't for the faint-hearted. You're not going to get water rides, and as far as I'm aware, there are no water rides travelling in the UK at the moment. You're not going to get big roller coasters. There are some exceptions, obviously. Some of the larger fairs do have some of the twister coasters, but you're not going to get large roller coasters outside of Winter Wonderland, but it's your general travelling fair when you rock up. Now, amusement parks are slightly different because they may have your big roller coasters and they may have some of your thrilling fair type rides as well. They may have a mixture of both, and this is where some of them perform really, really well against other places. Places like Adventure Island, which has got a couple of travelling rides in there, have a couple of larger roller coasters as well. But generally, these are all ones that could be picked up and moved very, very easily, and a lot of them could actually travel. So amusement parks are sort of the best of both worlds. You might get a couple of decent themed dark rides, particularly dark rides. You might get the odd occasional roller coaster that's got a little bit of a theme to it. And then you're going to get some more slightly thrilling attractions as well. It is, of course, worth noting that most of the flat rides that inherit even our theme parks are travelling rides. These are rides that are designed to travel the circuit. There aren't that many permanent sort of fixture rides, and there certainly aren't that many rides in the UK we've got that couldn't travel or aren't on the travelling circuit. There are one or two we can pick up. Skyforce would be one of them at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Not a ride I've ever seen travelling. And of course Rush at Thorpe Park, which requires quite heavy air hydraulics. That would have been the same for Slammer as well. But generally, when you go to a theme park, you're going to see the rides there that you could also see at a fairground. And at a fairground, they will be running a lot better. You could take Vortex at Thorpe Park. You are going to get a better freak out, a better afterburner on the fair circuit. You can look at the Enterprises, you'll get a better one on the circuit. So most of the ones that are in theme parks or even amusement parks will be run better on the fair circuit, and most of them are designed for the fair circuit. There aren't that many permanent models. As we said, we do have a few permanent models in the UK. A couple of afterburners are permanent models, and then we've got a couple of afterburners at places which are travelling ones, including Pleasurewood Hills and Breen. And although they class it as Breen Theme Park, we class it as Breen Amusement Park. The atmosphere of these places is absolute key, and no matter who you speak to, you will get a different opinion of which atmosphere is better. But They are very, very different, and it's worth noting they are catered to be very, very different. You head to a theme park, you will get custom bespoke music, 100% to fit the attraction. Music which again immerses you into the ride and attraction. Rides like Tomb Blaster and Hex would be completely lost with chart music playing. 100% be lost with chart music playing. So the atmosphere is designed for the attraction rather than just loud music. That said, obviously, at a fun fair, it's completely different, and it requires to be completely different. You can imagine sitting on a waltzer and having the Hex music player out. It just wouldn't be entertaining at all. So the sound, the music, the atmosphere is all dictated by which one you go to, and it varies and is different compared to where you are. Amusement parks again fit right in the middle of this, because some amusement parks will play chart music, music like that, dance music as you go around, and then the odd occasional one will have its own soundtrack. Again, it really kind of comes to life at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, which generally have just chart music playing around, but then you'll go inside Valhalla, Alice in Wonderland, and you'll have a completely different soundtrack. At fun fairs, you get the loud music, you get, you get a little bit of sing along, you get, everything you kind of want from a fun fair is there in music. And at a theme park, it just works perfectly. The music is key, absolute key. So the atmosphere is created really by the music and the people around you. And people that visit these places are very, very different. You'll get different people at theme parks and you'll get different people at fairs. You can come across a teenage market at a theme park, you can come across them at a fair, you can come across family fun fairs and family theme parks. So the atmosphere is made by what the show people, the theme parks put on for you. Value for money again comes down to time and circumstance. You can get cracking value for money at a theme park if you can visit on a quiet day. You can get cracking value for money at a fun fair if you visit on a cheap night. Same with amusement parks, same with all three. Sometimes it's down to planning. You could rock up to a theme park on a busy day and you could only get on 2 rides for £30. It's not unheard of. You could rock up to fun fairs, big fun fairs where you're paying £5-6, maybe even more if you wanted to again include Winter Wonderland for the rides and attractions. So it really is variant kind of on your planning. Amusement parks, again, a good way of distinguishing between amusement parks and theme parks is amusement parks will always have a pay per ride option. So you can walk in, you can go, I'll spend a couple of pounds, go on a couple of rides, or I'm going to get better value with a wristband. This is typical as well of Adventure Island Blackpool. It's typical of all your local parks. Without a doubt, as you go around, the local parks will do exactly the same. And you will have options in which to pay. A theme park, you will go in, you will pay to go in, and that will be the lot. With fun fairs, you pay per ride, and it does vary. It really does vary on how much you pay per ride. You could potentially get on 10 rides for £10. Or you could have to pay £25-30 for those 10 rides, which again could be comparable with an amusement park or a theme park, depending on where you go and how well it works out. So it really is variant. All of them can offer value for money like anything in life if you just plan ahead. Now then, there are some key points we want to bring up here that we feel are really good at each particular one. We're going to start off with the fun fairs. One of the reasons we go to the fun fairs is they have an immense amount of flat or unique rides. And although a lot of people say to us, well, it's the same rides over and over, you could say that exactly the same about theme parks. A good waltzer is a good waltzer, a good twister is a good twister. And then sometimes you will come across the really big cracking rides, your boosters, your speeds, your super spins, your nice top scans. You will come across rides that are absolutely insane, which you're not likely to get, to be fair, at a theme park. The ride cycles are naturally better. Yes, there are times when you go to really busy fairs, and we're talking about sort of, ones at fireworks and things where they might not be, but As a 95% rule, the ride cycles are going to be amazing. Certainly much better than what you're going to get on a theme park flat ride. The show, it's the actual showmanship. We talk about lighting packages, we talk about music. You know, they have to put a lot of effort in to get you to want to ride. You rock up and you see a plain, boring, kind of no roof waltzer, you might think twice about it. If you see one with booming sound, amazing lighting displays, LEDs across, and it looks fantastic, this is where the word show comes into showman. And of course, as a general rule at fairs, there are no queues. You can rock up, you can get straight on, pay your money, and potentially get all your rides and attractions done within a really short period of time. Theme parks are very different in the way they are. At theme parks, you will get an immersive theme. You will more likely feel that you're not just walking around a field. On top of that, you are going to get mass scale roller coasters. No matter how much people like fairgrounds, you know, your Stealth, your Nemesis, your Icon is never going to be at a fairground. It's never going to be there, and it's a massive, massive part of the theme park experience. Water rides, you will get a host of water rides at theme parks, which sadly these days you do not get at the fairgrounds. You know, they could have travelling log flumes. There used to be the travelling river rapid ride, which now sits at Lightwater Valley. There are options, but we just don't do it in this country. On top of that, you will get shows and experiences, whether it be a zoo show if you're at an animal park, whether it be a live show like the one at Flamingo Land. You will get some shows and entertainment which you're not going to get from the fair. The amusement parks have a bit of a mixture, so they have a mixture of rides. You might have your large scale roller coasters, your Millennium, your Odyssey, followed by, you know, having a shoot tower or something like that. So you'll have a nice mixture of rides. Without a doubt, they offer better rides per space. You tend to find that all the amusement parks cram as many rides as they can in their small space. So the selection is really, really good because they're just sort of plonked there, if you will. The payment options, there are better payment options at amusement parks, although we feel you tend to get better value for money by booking in advance and paying to go into a theme park, or indeed rocking up at a fair on a cheap night. You will have the option to take family members in with you that might not want to ride everything or anything at all. And as a general rule, they have lower queues. Now, we know there are some exceptions. Sometimes at places like Blackpool Pleasure Beach might not always be the case, but generally they have lower queues. What could they do better? Well, it's very, very difficult because they all have a different offering. In my personal opinion, the fairgrounds, they can advertise which rides are going to be there, exactly which rides are going to be there. Now, you've got to look at this from a Joe Public point of view, that if you're not into theme parks and fairs, finding out what the lineup is at the fair is very, very difficult. And I am into them, and even sometimes I can't find out what's going to be at the fair. And it's the difference between me visiting and not visiting if I know there's a ride there I want to go on. They kind of let themselves down on that scope with social media and indeed website being updated. The theme parks 100% oversell priority passes, and you get long queues. And it's you know, it's something that they could improve in all by themselves just by not being so greedy, to be honest with you. And then the amusement parks generally have the car park look, as I like to call it. Rides that, you know, look like fairground rides that just sit in the middle of a field on a car park with a big open space. And, you know, again, even with places like Blackpool Pleasure Beach, the big one goes over car parks, goes over roads, and, you know, it all looks very, very temporary. So there are things that they could do to make themselves better. Now then, where do we stand on which one we prefer? We like all rides. I'm sorry to disappoint you. We are UK theme parks, but we like all rides. We are theme park enthusiasts. As far as I'm concerned, that includes all rides and attractions across the UK. I don't buy into the I hate this, I don't like this because of this. There are certain theme parks I don't visit. There are certain fair showmen I don't visit. There are certain amusement parks I don't visit. But as a general rule, you know, I am up for anything with a good ride, anything good value for money, anything where I feel welcome when I get there and I'm going to get great value for the money I plow into it. But what do you guys think? Please leave your comments below. Amusement park, theme park, fairs, Or do you like them all? We would really, really like to know. Thank you for joining us here on UK Theme Parks. I really hope you've enjoyed this slightly different video to what we normally do, but we just want to put it out there. Everything that we've talked about today caters for different people, and we like all of it. We'll see you next time.